What's up, guys? It's your boy, the essential John L. Crossfire, aka the real main event, aka the Rogue Soldier, and today you're about to learn firsthand just what it's like to be caught in the crossfire. But above all else, prepare yourself, because in this very moment, today, right now, you are about to be caught in conversation. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 50. Episode 50 of Caught in Conversation. What a milestone that is. Unfortunately, straight off the bat, it might be the last one for a while. As I record this, it's Friday. I'm due to go in for surgery in 6 days' time. Just like, wrestling, life is card subject to change, so who knows? I might be back here with episode 51 and just ignore everything I'm saying, but I am going in for surgery as of now, on the 19th of May, I almost said March. So, yeah, unfortunately, I was hoping to get to episode 52, because that way it's a full year of episodes, and I'm just an OCD, ADHD fuck, and it's really bugging me, but health must come first. We've got a pretty big episode this week, though, because I said I was going to do this when I hit 800 downloads. I'm almost at 900 downloads, but I figure it's better late than never. Today, it's finally happening. The one and only Mrs. Crossfire is going in the hot seat. Mrs. Crossfire, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you,
I say
audience?
as we record this at 10 p.m. and we've spent the whole day together.
Episode 50.
I need to soundbite that. But yeah, basically, I'm gonna hit you with all the questions, and then we're gonna do a little run through of Warrior Wrestling 21. We finally got to watch it last night as we record it. That was like 2 weeks ago. Like we're just behind on everything on all fronts at this point. It's pretty hectic time.
Life is subject to change.
Speaking of being behind, something that we finally watched after fucking I don't know how many months. I finally purchased Spider-Man No Way Home on Blu-ray. We finally watched it 2 days ago. And holy shit. Holy fucking shit. I lost my mind. Mrs. Crossfire was laughing at me the entire time, calling me a nerd. That's okay. But, yeah, I'm not okay, but I'm okay, and it was amazing, but it also pissed me off at the same time, and I'm probably going to watch it again, to be honest.
It was pretty good. Pretty good.
But what was your overall thoughts, and keeping in mind that we had a handful of spoilers as it was. It has been out for a while, so don't really worry about spoiler alert, but in a nutshell, if you describe it, how would you describe it?
So no spoilers or spoilers?
That's what I'm saying. Like it's been out long enough.
Yeah.
We had a couple of. Luckily, the big one we didn't.
Yeah.
The one that got you anyway. I say, I won't say it just for the sake of that one. But
it got me. That was the main thing that got me. I didn't want to spoil it for anyone in case anyone hadn't seen it, but. You need tissues, fam.
Emotional.
You need tissues, fam.
Mrs. Crossfire was emotional.
Yeah. When I know.
I was emotional too. I'm not going to lie, but I had a hunch. But
yeah.
But fucking good movie, though.
It was a good movie,
and then that little tease at the end of it with, the extended trailer to Multiverse of Madness, which obviously it's in cinemas as we record this. I've had, a couple of people say that, I was disappointed, but on most fronts I've had good feedback, and at the end of the day, the only people that can really judge are ourselves, and but from what we've seen, pretty fucking keen.
Yeah, pretty keen.
Pretty fucking keen.
Yeah.
But as I said, we've got a few things on the agenda. Mrs. Crossfire is finally going into the hot seat. We don't know how long that may talk. Probably about, an hour or so, depending on most of my episodes when I do, the interviews, go for about 40 minutes to an hour. So we'll get into it, and then we'll quickly hit Warrior Wrestling after that. But before we go any further, we've got to get the song of the week. Got to get that out of the way. The song of the week this week, I had no idea what to do it, because Citizen Soldiers, This Is Your Sign Part 2, it's fully been released, and there's a couple of songs that they hadn't really released prior. The Part 1, they released every single song as they went, and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, by the way, that's the full album. But this one, there's 4 or 5 songs that they hadn't actually kind of promoted, sort of thing. Yeah. And they finally put one out. They put Who I Am out as a lyric video yesterday, just before we recorded this, and it's not my favorite of the bunch, but it's still a really good song, absolute banger, as I like to say. I call Little Song of the Week's bangers every week. It probably diminishes actual bangers, but to me, they're all bangers. I love them all, and they've just released another full-length album. Is already recorded. It's put together. They're going to just throw it at us in a few months' time. And I'm just like, how? Like, there's like fucking 20 songs on this album. And they've just put out 24 songs with the last 2 albums. So, I don't know. But the song of the week this week is Who I Am by Citizen Soldier. It is, of course, very much... It's very much in the same, I don't want to say in the same vein because that makes it sound negative, but it's the same theme, I guess, as, the rest of the songs. It's the continuation of the Fight the Good Fight, Fight the Good Fight project, as they say, but it's Fight the Good Fight against the stigma against mental health. I think I've discussed mental health briefly with Mrs. Crossfire, and I have since done the full episode with Hellfire and A-Swags. If you haven't listened to that, go listen to it, but trigger warning. But I think that's why Citizen Soldier's music it hits me so much. But yeah, go check it out. It's called Who I Am by Citizen Soldier. It's a fucking banger. I'm repeating myself, but that's alright. But Mrs. Crossfire, are you ready for the hot seat?
The hot seat, yeah.
You had way too much caffeine and sugar.
Yeah.
But you're not going to sleep tonight.
No.
And I'm not going to sleep either because I napped like half the day.
Yeah, this is true.
Now, as you know, you for some reason, I guess it makes sense because I'm your husband, but you find the sound of my voice relaxing. So you've listened to like a pretty big chunk of the episodes, and although you haven't listened to all the interviews, you know that I have my core 5 questions that I always ask my friends, the workers that are in the business. Obviously, you're not in the business yourself, despite being a wrestler's wife, and I call myself a wrestler despite not currently being healthy, but for all intents and purposes, you're a wrestler's wife, but still technically not in the business. So I have tweaked yours a little bit, and I went back and I loosely based them off the same set of questions that I asked Andrew, aka A-Swags, a couple weeks ago. I believe it was episode 43 was his solo episode. Go back and listen to that if you haven't. But again, you ready?
I'm ready.
You nervous?
Got my notes ready now.
You nervous?
A little bit. Wrestling fans are mean. No.
They really are, though. Let's be honest here. That's okay. This is my show. Anyone comments anything negative, you're going to get blocked straight away. But
Fight you.
I do have a bonus question. Speaking of fighting people, that's a pretty good segue. I have a bonus question before we get into the wrestling-related questions.
Uh-huh.
James Hellfire wants to know, how does it feel being the side piece in mine and his relationship?
I ain't no side piece. That's all right. I'll be coming for his new woman now. She'll be my boo.
Damn, you
coming at you, Jess.
Shooting on James Hellfire.
That's right, fool. I will F you up. I don't know why I'm texting all of a sudden, but anyway.
Too much sugar. This is great. This is going to be like one of my...
I'm way
I can
too
already
hyped
tell
up.
that this is going to be one of the funnest episodes we've done so far.
I'm too hyped up.
Like, I had a little bit of a nap because my eye was playing up, and now I'm just beaming because I fucking slept for like 4 or 5 hours, and you've had all this caffeine. I have an energy drink in front of me, so... This is going to be interesting.
Full of sugar and caffeine. Yep. ADHD at its finest, guys.
I'll ask for like the 3rd or 4th time now. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Ready promotion.
I'm ready. Promotion. That's a good movie.
Yes.
Question number 1, Mrs. Crossfire. What was your earliest wrestling memory?
So my earliest wrestling memory, that I can kind of think of was about around 2002, 2001-ish. I was around 6 or 7 years old. The crowd was chanting "You suck" at Kurt Angle, and my older brother was chanting it at the TV, and I was so confused why he was being so mean and saying that he sucked. I'm like, why does this guy suck so much? I don't understand.
You suck.
And it's like it was roughly around the time I think that he was feuding with Edge from memory.
Yeah, we've discussed this, and
Yeah,
we'll
I think it was
touch on it
around that
more in what
time.
I've actually picked as the match of the week. But it was the feud where Kurt Angle originally lost his hair to
Yeah.
Edge, and he was wearing the wig, and
Yeah, yes.
Edge had, like, just started the You
Yeah,
Suck
'cause
chance, and then
I can remember vaguely, like, it was the feud with Edge and stuff, but then I was like, shit, I think it was around the time when John Cena, like, debuted
yeah, it was
as well.
like he feuded
Like, it's
with
around
Edge.
that time period.
He feuded with Edge. Hulk Hogan finally took the wig off, exposed him as
Yes.
being bald. He makes Hogan tap, and then all of a sudden, he's serious again, and then he comes out, he has an open challenge, and here's this young John Cena kid, and everyone's like, fuck this guy, he's not going to be anything.
Yeah, it looks generic as fuck. Like, who cares
Now
about
he's
this
like
guy?
the second biggest star of all time behind Stone Cold Steve Austin.
But yeah, like, when I was asking my brother and stuff, like, why he was booing him and
Why?
stuff.
Why would you do that?
Why? Why, bro? Why?
It's one of those things, though, where, and obviously being a child, you don't really understand the whole heel face dynamic,
well,
right? You look at some of the heels, and like they're outright being dicks, and you're
Yeah.
like, fuck that guy, like you're a piece of shit, basically. But then you look at Kurt Angle, and he's always, since day one, been such a fucking good wrestler.
Yeah.
That it's genuinely like, why are they booing him?
Yeah, because like I
'Cause you just
actually
don't
liked him.
understand.
I liked him as a kid. I was like, this guy's a good wrestler. Why is everyone saying he sucks? He doesn't suck. He's cool. And then
He's an
Gary's
Olympic
just
gold
like,
medalist.
yeah, my brother's just like, so you know, this is just what we do, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, like he didn't know really the term for
Heel
heels
face,
and faces.
but he's a bad guy.
But, like,
right?
he's a
the
bad guy. You're meant to boo him.
He's
you
the
know?
villain. Like he's
Yeah.
Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Like, everyone thinks Vader's cool as shit, but he's meant to be the bad guy.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, oh, okay. So that's where I kind of learnt the basis of heels and faces and stuff, and I was like, okay. As well as, like, I really loved Edge at the time. Like, I've always kind of been a
I was
mark
about to say, I feel like that
Yeah.
kind of bleeds into why, because you've always said this, because like I have a definitive top 5, and I'm sure eventually
Yeah.
someone's going to come in and knock someone off the perch, but you've always said you have kind of the same 5 guys for the most part. But it kind of depends on your mood, like who's at
Yeah.
the top. But Edge has always been one of those guys, and
Yeah.
being that was your earliest memory, that's probably why. Because
Yeah,
for
it's
me,
nostalgia. A lot of my top 5 at the top 5, there are like more than 5, but
you
anyway.
have like 20 wrestlers that like they're my favorite wrestler right
Yeah,
now. But
because it's just kind of like it's the nostalgia from when I was a child. So you've got like Edge. They're like not in any particular order either, but like Edge, Ray, Stone Cold, Triple H. I've got the Hardys, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, and all his various like Dude Love, Cactus Jack, and it's like yeah, it's all the nostalgia. Like they're my favorites, and come to think of it, there's a lot of female wrestlers that have kind of started bleeding in there now because when I was younger, I didn't watch much.
because
of
it's
female
very much
wrestling.
bra and panties, right?
Yeah,
and then you go back
so-
and then you watch
yeah, I
what
was sick,
Trish
so-
and Lita and someone
Yeah.
like Victoria or an
Yeah.
Ivory are doing, and you're like, they were fucking
Yeah,
badass.
they were badass. It's just because it's like it was inappropriate. I was 6 years old to really be watching that stuff. So like, as soon as it would come on, mum or my bro would like turn it over. Like, nah.
Because like we've touched
No.
loosely throughout some of
Yeah.
the episodes that you've been on about your wrestling fandom, but it's like we've never really
Yeah.
kind of explored it to its fullest extent. So that's why I was like, hey, like, do you want to do this?
Yeah. So that's kind of like a few, I guess, and it's mainly nostalgia. Like now, you're exposing me to like indie companies, Australian companies. Like all I knew when I was a kid was WWE. That was the be end all of be end all.
Well, I said this. I had this discussion. You know, it's breaking kayfabe, but fuck it. Like, it's a podcast, right? On my way to Western Warfare 5, when I was carpooling with Atticus Slate, we were having this discussion where it's like, you know, we were talking about how we feel, and like this is semi off topic, but it bleeds into what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
We feel that John Cena would be more over in the Attitude Era than
Yeah.
Steve Austin would be today, right?
Yeah.
And then the reason I bring that up, and it may or may not make sense to some people, but you look at the talent that you have today.
Yeah.
Like, I know, you know, for a lot of the part, it does become a lot of flippy stuff and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of young guys, they try to just emulate what they see and think
Yeah.
that makes them a good wrestler. But from an, you know, but in that same sense, from an
Yeah.
athletic standpoint, people are more talented nowadays than back then. Like, you look at a guy like Seth Rollins, right? And obviously he's patting himself after guys like Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho, my hero, Eddie Guerrero, but
Yeah.
he can do everything where it's brawl, grapple, fly, blah, 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 blah. but he's kind of taken that to the modern, dare I say, indie style, and now he's morphed it with the WWE, sports entertainment style.
Yeah.
He may not scream, he might not, scream out at you like Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock.
Attitude.
But you watch what he does bell to bell. Same as like an AJ Styles, who's one of my all-time favorites, right? It's all subjective. A lot of guys might look at AJ Styles, put him next to Stone Cold and be like, who the fuck's this guy, right? Like, but then, like, that, I think I've kind of like lost what I said because I'm trying to think at the same time and rush through it. But you look at these guys and what they're capable of, like, and back in the day, you didn't need to do that, right? Like, Macho Man would do a scoop slam, drop a knee, top rope elbow drop. It was the greatest thing ever. Yeah. But as it's evolved, I think is the point I'm trying to make, is so many people are on that level. Like, look at how many, like, probably, 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, there was a couple of wrestling schools, but nowadays there's so many great wrestling schools all around the world. Like, even here in Australia, we've got 5 actually, now that I think about it. 5 core wrestling schools there's more than 5, but there is 5 core wrestling schools here in Australia alone that are fucking on par with literally anywhere else in the world.
Yeah. And
then you go to somewhere like the US, right? And you've got even the same, like, you've got like a Dr. Tom Pritchard, you've got guys like Gangrel, Simbodi. They're bringing up like just this whole crop of fucking talent, and they're learning from everything. And because we are in that age, like, people say that the internet ruined wrestling, and you and I have discussed that to an extent where it has. But from a worker standpoint, you're exposed to anything and everything, so you have no choice but to be better.
And in a way, you can
I feel like that was a bit of a rant, but
yeah, I can see that in a way, like, with, like, social media and stuff and the internet and everything, you can manipulate fans even more. Like, you can egg them on and be the like, most asshole heel
MJF.
there ever was. Like,
MJF.
Yeah.
His mum is helping him keep kayfabe alive by saying that he's like a scumbag. It's fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
100%.
You can feed
but
the
yeah,
fire
I feel like I kind of got away from that. But the point was, a lot of your top 5 instantly nostalgia. But the reason is, there's so many good ones. Like, we were just watching Warrior Wrestling 21, which we're about to get to, which featured Athena. That led to us being like, oh, you've seen highlights from Athena versus Tyre on Instagram. I'm like, hold up. That show's on RWTVs. You want to watch it. And then you watch that. So people like Tyre and Athena.
And when I was younger too, it was all like, cool, they're doing cool shit. Like, that's mainly the substance of it. There wasn't the psychology. There wasn't even like what's indies. Like, I didn't even know what the indies match, were.
There was the superplex through the pile of chairs, which was a big holy shit spot. But they built like their way up to that, and it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I'm like super into psychology and stuff. So now I see that other standpoint. So it's like, these wrestlers are still up there for me because they're amazing, and like, I really loved them as a kid. I still love them now, but it's like, there's other ones that it's like, I like them for other reasons, like psychologically and like, like,
even someone like the DMDU folk, like someone like Vixen for you, like, she's local-ish to us, but she's an Australian wrestler, but you've said she's still up there with anyone in the world, and that's why you've been kind of leaning towards some of the deathmatch stuff now as well, again, because of the psychology. But that's my point. Like, there's just so much talent in every nook and cranny of the world, and they're all on that level. Yeah. Like, they could go to an NXT, an AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. Like, they could go and they could hang. Like, my match of the week on last week's episode, Kid Valiant, he's only a handful of years in. Yeah. He's 19 years old. Kid, He just hung in there with Robbie fucking Eagles. Yeah. Like, that's
awesome.
Like, where does that make sense? And then we were talking about Billy Starks. Yeah. Right? How? Yeah. Someone like a Sky Blue.
Yeah, well, you look at even like Maddie. Like, Maddie had what, 4 years before
Maddie Wahlberg, Grayson Waller. Yeah. He's in NXT, same as Indy, right? And, unfortunately, she has just been released, but Persia Pirotta, Steph Delander, same thing. Yeah. 2016, 2017, look at where she's gotten to. And that's just a product of where she's trained, who she's trained with, and just being able to take advantage of the tools are at your disposal. But I feel like I should probably like go to the next question, but because Mrs. Crossfire's kind of trying to justify her answer, and I'm like, no, but it makes sense. There's just I'm showing you like. You look at IWTV, there is fucking hundreds of promotions from around the world just on that one platform.
Yeah, well, there's like...
That one platform.
Oh my God, let me talk.
My bad.
There's like an endless disposal of like wrestlers and promotions, and it's like, what even? Like, friggin' like HOG. Like,
their production needs to step up a little bit, but the talent that they have, and some of them, again, they're straight out of the dojo from Amazing Red. Yeah, straight out of the dojo, and they're fucking putting on bangers.
I just seen them on Instagram and was like, fuck, can we buy like some of their shows so I can get exposed to it a bit more? Because I hadn't seen, is it Loki? Is that how I say his name?
Loki.
Yeah, Loki. He was friggin' awesome. I hadn't seen any more of his stuff.
A lot of people will hear that and be like, because he was like an indie darling in the day, like, how have I not shown him out of all people? But that's the point. There's so much shit out there. So much. That even someone like him has slipped through the cracks, and he's been on the grind for fucking years.
Yeah. And if you look at it too, apart from more recently where I've been flat out with work and stuff, we've been living and breathing wrestling for the last like 3 years. Like, because I kind of took a break away because I didn't have Foxtel anymore when I was younger. Then I've met like Crossfire, and it's like, oh my God, all this stuff. Holy shit.
That was like last week. I watched those 3 DMDU shows in the same day while trying to like squeeze in going to work that night. I didn't go to bed until like 9 a.m. the next morning because I was trying to get it all done. I went that whole week without watching any wrestling at all. Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was just that busy that I didn't get a chance. I'm like, that is the first week in literally like how many years?
Yeah.
Because like it used to be like almost daily, even if it was just one little clip here, or one little match. Like even stuff on social media.
Yeah.
I'd seen like the results and stuff and kept up, but I'd barely seen maybe 5 minutes of stuff online.
Yeah, where we usually were. So it's kind of been super hectic, and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, like this is weird. But yeah.
But I think we should move on. We're almost, we've just hit the 20-minute mark.
Oh my gosh,
and we're about to hit the second question. I feel like that's good. I did the same thing with Atticus Slane. We were like 20 minutes in and I was like, fuck, I've asked one question.
Yeah.
Okay. But number 2, again, you're not in the business despite being a wrestler's wife, despite having a fantastic fucking mind for the business. Like, I've bounced so many ideas off you, and you've always been like, tweak this and tweak that. And I'm like, were you a wrestler in your past life? Like, what's going on here?
It's my creativity, my
But
dude.
if you were in the business, what would your name be? What would be your finisher? And what would your theme song be?
Okay, so I've got 2 different ones in the can that like I wouldn't mind.
Because I know you've been creative, like when I've been trying to create stuff on like the 2K games, and you're like, oh, I want this and this and this, and like you're helping me put the outfits and stuff together.
Well, because I'm a massive nerd, this was my World of Warcraft character. I went on like an elvish like generator thing on like freaking Google. I Googled it and was like, I need a generator for like a name. I can't think.
Give me a generic elf name.
But then I come up with Navari, and I'm like, I have not seen that anywhere. And then I typed it in, it hadn't been taken. I was like, yes. So now I've just like clung onto it. So it's like Navari would be my name. So she'd be like an elvish Scandinavian like spellcaster, kind of like maybe a bit Viking-ish. Because that's just what I'm into.
Well, the female character I have on 2K22 for my career is Navari Nova. And she's very much that. Like, she's a mad-ass, like, post-apocalyptic Viking character that you kind of sat there and were, like, helping me put together. And then, like, you were like, okay, here's what she looks like. And then I helped you with, like, the moveset and stuff.
Yeah, because I liked the sound of, like, Navari Nova. Because the Nova part I added onto it because I was like, because of the supernova.
It's like you need 2 names, and then like you got Vince McMahon who gives people like the onomatopoeias like the same words, like Robert Roode. He came in as Bobby, like he's wrestled as Robert Roode in the past, but he came in as Bobby Roode, and Vince has randomly just been like, nah, you're Robert Roode. It's 2 R's. Rhea Ripley, Ruby Riot.
Yeah, I just
realized it's predominantly R's that it happens with.
Yeah, I just had to do it. But so that would be her. So she'd be like, an elvish Scandinavian, like Viking kind of like spellcaster chick, like into witchcraft and stuff. Or I'd have like a cyber hacker, like kind of gimmick. So, like, I'm not sure on the name of that one. I haven't really thought about that too much. It's more being pretty new. It's mainly because I like IT and stuff. So, I was like, that'd be
As
cool.
the old expression goes, though, like for actual wrestlers, when they're like, oh, I want this to be my name, but they want me to call this. A name's just a name.
Yeah.
A name's a name. Like, if you've got the gimmick down pat.
Yeah, but that's mainly the gimmick kind of thing. So, I thought pretty well into it. Yeah, for someone who's got 2 blown out knees and probably never wrestled in her life.
Fine,
but...
we're allowed to fantasy book here. Toot our own horns. We mark for ourselves for a moment in this imaginary... It's almost like a Markapalooza special for ourselves.
Yeah. But, yeah, so my finisher for Navari, the name of it would be called Into the Underworld, and it would be a sunset bomb. So that's for Navari.
So, like, a la, speak back to House of Glory, a la Amazing Red with the code red. Yes.
Yeah, like the code red. So it's like, yeah, I want to do like, a sunset bomb, and that's what it'd be called, Into the Underworld, because it's kind of like dark and eerie. And
pretty basic
like,
move to pull off though as well.
Yeah.
Which is the beauty of it, because it looks so fucking amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And I was like, it still looks kind of devastating enough to be a finisher.
It's just
like,
up, over, boom, don't drop your head.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So yeah, that would be Navari's, or like the cyber hacker character. The finisher would be called brute force attack, which is actually an IT term. It's actually a virus, so you can do that to hack people. But anyway, not gonna incriminate myself or anything. But anyway, yeah, and it'd just be a basic spear. Just a basic spear because, my
the
mark
BFV,
for Edge.
the brute force virus, the BFV.
I was going to say brute force attack, so BFA. But
yeah.
BFA.
But like, because you just said it was a virus, I could literally like picture like a commentator, like you hit it and it's like, the BFV! The BFV! Come on, make the cover!
Yes. But yeah, and now going into what my theme songs would be.
Hit me with that music.
So my theme song for Navari would probably be A Deathless Song by Parkway Drive. And it features Jenna McDougall from Tonight Alive. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool song. You should go check it out.
Yes.
And for the cyber hacker character, it'd probably be Sleepwalking by Bring Me the Horizon, because I'm going to bring me the Horizon mark.
Fuck
Yeah.
yes.
And I love Sepaternal. It's like my favorite album.
I popped for them having one of their songs in 2K22. I was just like, everyone's like, oh, Machine Gun Kelly's putting the soundtrack together. And I'm like, well, say what you want about him personally, but the soundtrack is fucking amazing.
Yeah. I'm super into music, so I could go all day trying to pick theme songs, but they're the two at like the top of my head.
One that I do remember you actually telling me you would have liked if you were a wrestler was Heaven Knows by the Pretty Reckless. I remember it came on one day and you were just like, this would make a fucking boss-ass theme song. And I'm like, fuck yes. Like,
it would.
I
really thought that was cool. I'm a massive mark for them as well. I just love Pretty Reckless. They're the best.
Number 3. And this is like the big one for like everyone. What is your favorite match of all time?
Okay, so...
Or at least, or a handful of couple of matches if you've got more than one.
Okay, well, the main one that I'd probably go to, again, nostalgia and whatnot, would be... So, I wrote... Yeah, so it would be Cactus Jack versus Triple H in the 2000 Royal Rumble.
The street fight.
Yeah, the street fight.
Fuck yes.
Yeah.
Former match of the week here on Court and Conversation, by the way.
Yeah, that's literally one of my favourite ones.
Fucking...
Because it's brutal. Like, it's brutal.
I think
There's
you and I
have
have actually referenced it a couple of times on the pod.
Yeah, I think
but it's like,
did.
Think of the pop.
Yeah.
Every time it gets me like, I could lose an eye getting pedigreed into these thumbtacks, but...
Yeah.
Think of the pop.
Like Triple H getting his leg cut open on the table.
Yeah, when he got like scoop slammed or suplexed or something on the outside on like the wooden pallets.
Yeah,
that they had like on like the staging, because it was like kind of set up like a back alley, so it had like the spray paint and it was like basically looking like trash pretty much, and it just fucking sliced him.
Yeah, so that, again, that's more nostalgia. There's probably other matches I could say that, out there, but that's the one that always sticks out to me when someone asks, what's your favourite match? That's the first one that comes to mind.
Like, at the end of the day, everything's subjective as it is, but a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that would probably have that match at number one, if not at least top 3, top 5. Like,
Yeah.
I probably couldn't even put together a top 5 all-time favorite matches. Like, I've got my number one favorite, which is that Ray Eddie match from Halloween Havoc, but I probably couldn't even comprise a top 5. But if someone was to be like, da-da-da-da, and that one was in there at like 2 or 3 or whatever, I'd be like, fucking sure. Like, 100%. And even, I think, again, what gets you is, and we've actually gone back and we've rewatched that when they did was it the Untold series that they did it on, or was it another series? But they went back and they revisited the Cactus Jack, or just the Mick Foley versus Triple H feud, and they showed when he comes out as Mankind and he's all beat up and he's like, I can't do this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I know someone who can. And then they play like the vignette and it's like Cactus Jack is back and Triple H's face just selling the character of Cactus Jack and being like, oh my God, no, like I can't possibly face him in a street fight or a hardcore match or whatever. Like it's just all of that. And then it leads up to the actual match where they just fucking destroy each other. Like I said, Triple H could have bled out, like legitimately. Yeah. Foley could have like lost an eye, had a fucking thumbtack go into his brain or something. I don't fucking know, like just
some wild shit.
Everything, but think at the pump. But that's a good match. Is that the only one you wrote down?
That's
you wrote it down?
That's the only one I wrote down because that's the main one that kind of stood out to me the most. I was just like, yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Pretty fucking good. Pretty good decision. Pretty good choice.
Yeah, because there was another match that I can think of. I'm just trying to think who was in it because Undisputed Era was in it. It's an NXT one of the first ones I kind of watched with you.
Oh, it was one of the it was the War Games match. I can't remember which one it was because Undisputed Era were in most of those ones. I couldn't tell you which one. It
was in the I don't know. The massive like cage match and they were all
it was War Games, but Undisputed Era were in most of the War Games matches.
I can't remember which year it was.
I think
it might have been 19.
Was it the very first one?
It might have been.
Because I can't remember who was in that off the top of my head, but I remember like fucking.
There was one. I don't know, like the pig out. Friggin' they were in pretty much all of them, but there was just this one, and it just stood out.
Because from memory,
I'm trying to think who else was in it.
It's Undisputed Era versus Sanity versus the Authors of Pain, and they had Roderick Strong with them because that was before Roderick had joined the Undisputed Era.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's the one where there's the superplex off the top of the cage into like the pile of like everyone. I think
whatever year it was the same year that Dakota was feuding with Tegan Knox. I think something was happening there, something like that, or something from memory. But yeah, it was freaking good.
I don't know, because it all blends together, and as I said, like, because like Undisputed Era were in like all of them.
We watched that much wrestling too, so it's kind of like I can't remember for the life of me.
I have to go back and work out which one exactly it was, because like all the War Games matches that the Undisputed Era were in were
fantastic,
fucking great. Because the most recent one was the one where they went off against Pat McAfee and fucking Oni and who the fuck was in that? Yeah. Oni Lorcan, Danny Burch, and Pete Dunne.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, wasn't as good as the very first one or the second one, but still pretty fucking good. That was where we both were like, holy shit, Pat McAfee's actually talented as fuck.
Yeah. Well, even when A-Kid was like going for the cup in UK.
Yeah, like some of those Heritage matches, like they're very obscure matches, and if you were to say, that's my favourite match of all time, people would probably look at you and be like, really? But they're really fucking good matches, and most of them were in front of, well, actually all of them at that point were in front of no one.
So I thought they were really good. The chemistry, the psychology of it all was pretty damn fun.
And you're just a sucker for like the technical style anyway.
I like technical shit. Technical shit, psychology, like psychological shit, like charismatic shit, you know.
Just a
all
great
the shit.
Big blend.
All the shit.
Just a blend of everything.
That's some good shit.
That's some good shit, damn it. Moving on. Question number 4. If you were a wrestler and you could wrestle anyone from any era, who would it be?
So I'd probably say, actually Luna Vachon.
Whoa, okay.
Or Beth, or possibly Lita. They're my top 3 that I'd probably look at.
Is this where you just kind of, you clone yourself and it's like Mrs. Crossfire, Navari and whatever the heck his name's gonna be, and like a 6-woman tag against the 3.
But it's just like they have like 3 like badass like women that I could see myself like having matches against.
Beth Phoenix especially stands out to me as someone that like I could see, like, obviously, like, you're not a wrestler, but like if you were to become a wrestler, I could see that kind of style.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I feel like, I don't know, like, I'm not a wrestler at all, but like if like psychology wise and like chemistry wise, I feel like we'd hit it off and do like a fucking great match. Like that's how I'm looking at it, and I'm just being a mark for myself.
Couple of strikes, maybe a suplex, take a glam slam, 1, 2, 3.
No.
No? You're not gonna put her over?
No, I'll put her over.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
I'll put her over, but I'm not being like a fucking 20-second match or something.
No, but I'm saying like, you know, just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, stupid.
I want some technical shit in there. Yeah.
Okay, if you could be in a tag team with any wrestler ever, specifically not me, because I've asked you this before, and you've kind of kayfabed me, and you're like, oh, Crossfire. I'm like, just answer the fucking question. If you could be in a tag team with any wrestler ever that isn't me, who would it be?
I've chosen 8 people.
8 people. Is this 8 separate tag matches, or is this?
These are just ones that I could see myself pairing up with that I think would be cool. Like, yeah, like Beth would be one of them. Actually, it's probably more than 8 now. Look at it, it's probably like 9. Beth, Rhea, Britt Baker, Jessica Havoc, Taya, Valkyrie, Rosemary, or Vixen. She's my girl. She's cool.
Fuck yeah.
I love Vixen.
Okay, now, if you and I were to have a tag team match together as Mr. and Mrs. Crossfire, who are we facing?
So traditionally, like, I'd have like a male and female, just because that's just
didn't have to be a mixed tag, but it was completely like up for interpretation.
Like I probably could have done that, but these are the ones that stood out to me. I picked 3 different tag teams that like would be cool. So I was looking at like Sami Callihan and Jess Havoc.
Okay, so basically you want me to die?
No, it's just I feel like you two would gel really fucking well. Like it'd be cool. It'd be a cool match.
Man, the promo, like this is going to be me putting myself
promo
over,
off.
but me having a promo off with Sami Callihan would be fucking amazing, and you know it.
And again, Beth's coming back again. Beth and Edge. Because I'm a mug for fucking Edge.
You know what? You and Beth can do the bulk of it. Edge will get the hot tag, and then you'll just spear me 1, 2, 3. I'm done.
Okay. And then, because we're freaking sick to have an Indigenous team versus an Indigenous team, so Joel Bateman and Rochelle Rogue versus us would be cool.
You know what? Joel Bateman, book it.
It'd be pretty
It'd be like a dark cool match. Be a dark match. We can make it like an arm wrestling contest or something.
Yeah. We don't know how to wrestle, so you both will kill us. But anyway.
I'm not currently cleared to compete, so I'll face Rochelle in like a thumb war or something.
It'd just be cool. I'm like,
no, I
cool.
dig it.
Like an Indigenous, like, kind of like match. It'd be sick.
And I know that we've mentioned it before. I believe it was the most recent episode we did together where we talked about roll-on. But I really hope, just glossing over it, that we do get that Indigenous promotion that they were working on.
Stomping Grounds, is it?
Yes, because you don't realise just how much, like, and I think it's because over the years people have been, scared to be who they were. Like, I went through the same thing, and then it was actually Rochelle and Joel, respectively, that kind of helped me come out of my shell and be like, no, this is who the fuck I am. But you didn't realise, like, just how many Indigenous wrestlers are spread out through the country. It's really crazy. But okay, so that was at the end of the tag teams?
Yeah. So they're the ones I'd traditionally say.
I dig it. Are there any, again, you're not a wrestler, but if you were to put your fantasy booking hat on, are there any match stipulations you've ever dreamed of doing or you think would just be cool to do, etc., cage, CLC, deathmatch, rumble, blah, 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 blah?
So, all the matches, because, I wouldn't mind, like, a real rumble match. like a cage match.
I think everyone as a fan
match,
has kind of dreamt of...
you'd want to do all of them.
You've always dreamt of the Rumble countdown. It's like the 5, 4, 3, 2, nah, and you get like your 30 seconds and then you get thrown out.
Frick the energy. The energy of like coming out and running down there like, I'm going to fuck some shit up. No, you're not, bitch. Boom.
Just boom, 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 hit my finisher, and then someone pops up from the corner, throws me out.
But yeah, like, I wouldn't mind a cage match, a TLC match. I wouldn't mind maybe having a bit of a death match and seeing how I go with that. Because, like, I got a pretty high pain threshold, so I could imagine that maybe I'd be good. I don't know.
And, like, you can have parameters in those things. Like, that's something that the DMDU folks, and I preach DMDU all the time. I don't give a fuck. Everyone knows that. This is my podcast. But, like, there's a lot of people, and, like, Joel and Jay and Aaron, they've all kind of said that, like, everyone, that wants to try it can try it. You're not going to be forced into doing it. But also, if you are doing it, there's parameters. Like, so Mrs. Crossfire ain't going to be getting stabbed with a fork. She ain't going to be taking the cheese grater, blah, blah, blah. But it's like...
hardcore shit.
But it's like, hey, fucking slam me into a barbed wire bed. My hair might get tangled. That's fine. Some tacks, light tubes, whatever.
Yeah.
Like... I can see that because I wanted to try thumbtacks and light tubes and all the fun stuff, but here we are.
Yes. But yeah, so like, cage, TLC would be sick. Tag team, but lucha rules would be pretty cool.
Even just like a 4-way or a 5-way with the lucha rules.
Yeah.
And you just, the 4 corners matches where you've got the tags, but it's still everyone for himself. It's always done something for me.
Even like, I don't know, I've really enjoyed lumberjack matches, just getting thrown back fucking in there. Like, I just like the sound of it, and it just looks sick. Like, I've seen a few of them, and I'm like it seems pretty...
That's one thing where and maybe this is me just being marked, but now that you mentioned, like, a lumberjack matches, like, when you think of the greatest matches of all time, there's no lumberjack matches that come to my mind, but in that same sense, I've never really seen one that I haven't enjoyed, regardless of promotion.
Yeah.
Because it's always that same thing where you come out, you get thrown in, blah, 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 blah. The heel lumberjacks, protect the heel and blah, 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 and you've got the dynamic. Usually there's a big clusterfuck at the end where there's like an all-in brawl, and then, the referee can't do anything about it because it's a lumberjack match, and then finally the legal people hit something and the match is over. Like, it's a big clusterfuck, but in all the right ways. Like, it's much like a Rumble, I guess. Like, there's never been a bad Rumble. Like you mentioned Cactus Jack versus Triple H at the Royal Rumble 2000. With all due respect to everything else on that card, like you had the Hardys and the Dudleys in the first ever tag team tables match, and it was okay, but that Cactus Jack versus Triple H match was really the only good match on the card. Like that Rumble, nowhere near being the greatest Rumble of all time, but it's still a Rumble at the end of the day. Like you can still watch it and be like, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, who's coming out?
Yeah,
it's fun.
Just enjoy
right?
it.
Like, cool. I dig it.
Yes.
The final question before we transition over into the Warrior Wrestling, I always end it on a non-wrestling question. I do my best to suit it, to the individual. And you'd think that because you're my wife and I know you so well, it'd be easy to come up with something. It was the complete opposite because I know a little about every single thing that you know that I'm like, how the fuck can I narrow this down?
I'm into so much shit, dude. It doesn't help.
So, you're a big fan of, like, true crime and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What is your favorite show, documentary, podcast, yada, 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 that you'd recommend that listeners watch or listen to?
Well, I only looked at release shows and movies as such.
That's fine.
But, like, there's podcasts and things too, but I'd be here all day. You guys would be here all day and just, like, shut it.
Mrs. Crossfire's going to start her own fucking podcast just reviewing.
I freaking wish.
I mean, look, I've got the setup here, like...
Yeah. I might get a couple listeners. They'll be like, what?
Why the fuck not?
Anyway.
You've got graphic design experience. You can make your own logos and shit.
Yeah. But yeah, I'd probably say Criminal Minds or Bones. Like, Criminal Minds was way up there. And then, like, I've started, like, thoroughly enjoying Bones. I've started properly watching it all the way through. Because, like, Bones and Law and Order SVU were the first kind of criminal shows I watched when I was younger. Even Cold Case, because... Mum used to have it on the TV and it would come on. She'd be like, okay, you're going to go to bed now because Mum would want to watch her crime shows. But I'd go to bed and, like, I'd turn on my TV and turn the volume down really low so I could just hear it, and then just sitting there just watching it.
Trying to like lip read and shit.
Yeah, this is when I'm like, I don't know, like 7, 8 years old. Because I'm just like, I want to watch these crime shows Mum's watching. I did end up having nightmares and getting scarred, and Mum was right. But I still love them now. But yeah, so
Criminal Minds.
Yeah. Criminal Minds or Bones, but I think Criminal Minds is like...
Do you have any... Again, this is just off the top of your head. I didn't preface you this. I kind of prefaced you with some of the questions.
Yeah.
But do you, off the top of your head, do you have any like a favourite episode that stands out of one or the other?
It's hard.
Or like a favourite story arc?
It's kind of hard because with Criminal Minds, a lot of it, people don't realise.
Was that the one with the dude that wrote it used to be a cop? Is that the one?
Yeah, so one of the guys that helped actually produce the show, because everyone thinks it's made up, it's actually not. One of the guys, I think I can't think of his first name, but last name's like Clementine. He used to be an FBI profiler himself. So a lot of them are loosely based on like true crimes and stuff. So it's super interesting.
It's similar to like, obviously a completely different style, but like look at like Young Rock. Where it's real life stories, but they're being exaggerated.
Yeah,
for
exaggerated
television.
and like fabricated and whatnot. But like there's one, it's not my favourite, but it's like, it's always creeped me out and stood out because I'm like, I know this is how people like censor, but like dispose of bodies and whatnot. So it's like pig farms and stuff. There was that one and it fucked me up. There was another one where it was a chicken, she got eaten alive by like dogs and crap, and it's like, yeah, some eerie shit.
Some fucked up shit, but...
Yeah, so I don't know. I kind of started, I guess, to get into it. Like, this is kind of like a bit of oversharing because ADHD just fucking overshare everything. But anyway, so something happened to me when I was a kid. So I actually almost got kidnapped in Kmart when I was about 4 or 5. So I think that's why I was so...
I remember the first time you told me that story and I was just like...
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. I couldn't go into Kmart much, like, for a very long time.
Even sometimes these days, like, you know, you get some creepy motherfuckers, like, walking around and you're still, like, right on me, and I'm like...
Yeah. Like, I buried the trauma a lot, and my psychiatrist brought it up not that long ago, and then it didn't help because some shit happened on the news where another little girl actually got grabbed from Kmart somewhere else in Australia, and that fucked me up because it just
I remember seeing that and just being like, the fuck?
And now I'm like, shit, like, kind of had a realization, maybe this is why I'm so obsessed with crime shows
fascinated.
and fascinated because people like, how can you be fascinated with stuff like that and like serial killers? And I know a lot of people are, but like, there's reasons there why I'm weirdly fascinated. And I wanted to be a criminologist because I wanted to find this guy because we never reported it. So it's pretty fucked up that he could be still out there, and that still freaks me out to this day.
It does make sense though, because like I actually watched a pretty big handful of Criminal Minds with you, but there's a few episodes of Bones where like their special effects department deserves like all the props, because some of that shit looks gory as fuck, and I'm like, ugh. I'm like, I can't watch every single episode, but it's always fascinating the way they do it, because the whole crux of the show is obviously they're trying to solve it. But for the show, they're trying to get into the mind of why would they do that, and that's what's really fascinated me. Like, they've just added, I think it was like 2 weeks ago now, but we're running behind the John Wayne Gacy
I really
thing on
watch
Netflix.
that.
I really want to watch that because like they really go in and like obviously some of the stories are going to be fucked up, but they psychoanalyze the absolute shit out of him, and I'm like, I'm keen for that. Like,
and that's kind of why I brought up that experience. Like, I don't like oversharing that shit because I've buried that pretty deep. But the reason I brought it up is because I really enjoyed Mindhunters. It was a really good show, but there was things in that kind of triggered me as such. So like, I just want to warn people, like, it's a great show. I'd recommend it.
Yeah,
but
I remember
like,
you've brought it up in the past that,
it.
You've had a family friend that, he was unfortunately murdered, and I believe
that
was what triggered you in Mindhunter, wasn't it? There was some sort of scene.
It was more towards the fact they showed photos of a murdered child.
Oh, okay.
That really screwed me. But like, even Criminal Minds and things like that, they were my favourite shows, and for 3 years I couldn't I just couldn't like.
Because I remember one of
watch
them, you said there was some
crime-related.
sort of like murder and you kind of,
Yeah.
you're just like, nah.
I think it was Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
But with Mindhunter, yeah, I'd highly like warn you. Like they only show you the one photo, but that was enough to fuck me up. So I just want to warn everyone else. Like I'd recommend it, but like
trigger alert, trigger warning, like whatever you want to label it as. But
yeah, I'd highly like be careful like when you're watching these shows because it can fuck up your like mental health.
Can I just say quickly before we move on to like the match of the week and just run through Warrior Wrestling before we wrap this up? We got through that way quicker. We just learnt a lot about Mrs. Crossfire in just under 50 minutes. We're on 49 minutes and change at the moment. But we went to one of your, I won't mention her name on the pod because I don't know if she feels about it. We went to recently one of your best friend's weddings.
Yeah.
And we were sitting at the table and every single woman at that table was discussing like how much they loved like true crime, and you were all like comparing all these stories and stuff, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah. It seems to be a thing. Like a lot of people are into true crime and stuff, and it's like I just wanted to like note that like I don't glorify serial killers because a lot of people are kind of like, oh, you're glorifying like serial killers and murder and shit. No, it's just generally it's a passion of mine because
just a general
the
thing,
psychology,
like,
and that's why I wanted to bring it back because I'm like the psychology of it all, like and the criminology, I really am like passionate about. That's why I'm so passionate about wrestling as well.
I think that's why we clicked since like you know like, we haven't really shared our story properly, and maybe we'll do that one day on an episode. But I think that's why we clicked, because obviously I've always I've had a creative mind. I don't know where it came from. It could be that I'm ADHD, because a lot of ADHD people have that thing where they find something to hyper focus on, and somehow, some way, at like 4 or 5 years old, for me, it became professional wrestling. But I have like this creative mind, and I always like to kind of be like, okay, this is cool, and it's cool that it does this, but why does it do this? And I feel like you're on that same spectrum, and then for you, it's kind of like, I think that's why we both clicked, because it's like we're very like,
just... For me, it's brains and psychology.
Like, I don't want to sit here and be like, I'm a very smart person, because if you were to look at my marks in high school, they would tell you opposite. But I've always been told that I was always told I was a bright child with lots of potential, and the big one especially was he has a great imagination. Yeah. And it's because like I like that. Fascinated by the human mind, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what I mean. Like your like fascination was like wrestling and stuff, and then mine's like psychology and how things work as well. Psychology, like the brain, like criminology, but then it's like IT and stuff as well. That's why I dove into that before.
Because like I've always been fascinated by like that kind of stuff. It's like, why would they do something so horrible? But I haven't been able to watch the shows because of that. Like I love horror movies, but I know that shit's fake. Yeah. Right. So it's like it's a different kind of spectrum. So I'm like, I'm glad that like. Because you always thought, like, oh, I didn't realize... You didn't never realize that I was into this until, like, 6 months ago. Like, and that's, like... Yeah. 3 years into our relationship.
Just a lot of crime stuff, like, you were kind of like, oh, like, because I was weirdly obsessed with it.
But it was mainly just that, like, it has that kind of aura, I guess, for lack of a better term. I'm trying to think on the spot here without rambling too long so we can move on, but there's always just been that kind of, like, it just stands out as, oh, no, there's this and this and this, and... You're like, no, fuck, I don't want to get triggered. But there's always I've always had that fascination of, because like I watched like, my mum would watch like, you know, Law and Order, SVU and stuff like that as a kid. And it led to me having nightmares just because of that. Like I had a nightmare that I was kidnapped and I woke up like sweating, and I basically borderline had an asthma attack because it felt so fucking real from something that I'd seen on TV. And like I feel like that's kind of where I'm like, no, I don't want to watch that shit because that's fucked up. But it's always been there. I'm like, what? Like I've always wanted to know like what makes the human brain tick, I guess.
Yeah, because like I've looked...
This is completely just divulged, but I'm loving it.
Yeah, but it's like super random. But yeah, like I used to feel when I was little, like people watching me all the time. Like Dad had to make sure like the blind was down and stuff for night time because I felt like people were watching me. I literally said to Mum, I'm like, you need to go into the backyard. Yeah. And like that's a genuine fear that kids have, and the absence of like light causes that. But it's like for me as well, I think it was the trauma of that shit that happened. And it's kind of like the way that I've now coped with it is watching all these crime shows.
So this is kind of like, I know we're renting, but we're just under an hour, so we're doing really well for time.
Yeah.
Like, I discussed this with you. Like, when I first lost my dad, right, I tried to talk to a counselor, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And they basically, wasn't the greatest counselor in the world. I'm not going to name names, but she basically, after a few months was like, oh, you're not sad anymore, you're cured, which is a load of fucking shit.
Up.
But, like, this is kind of the crux of why I started this podcast. Because, one, I couldn't wrestle anymore. Two, it's like, I need to have a creative outlet, and it gives you a chance to kind of, I talk a lot, and I get that from my mum. And if my mum listens to this, I don't even care. Shout out to my mum. You talk way too much. But yeah, anyone that knows my mum knows that she can be very loud and she talks a lot. But I like having conversations with people. Yeah. And that's why when I was trying to come up with a name, and James Hellfire kind of helped me come up with the pun of caught in the conversation, and then I've shortened it to caught in conversation. But this is kind of why I started this pod, because it's like, in some ways, it can be therapeutic. And, like, I feel like, we're married. We've been married just on 6 months. I think it's just over 6 months now.
Yeah, just over 6.
And it's like, we're still, even in these little episodes of, hey, pick a topic or a couple of, little guidelines, and we're still learning more about each other.
Yeah. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
why I'm just like...
Yeah. Because there's sometimes I get like this and I'm hyped up.
So I'm like, I'm sorry,
stuff,
guys. I'm sorry if I'm ranting. But then I looked over and I'm like, we're under an hour. Like, literally all we've got left is to just quickly run through the results with a couple of, like, highlights of Warrior Wrestling 21, and we're done. Which is, for some of the episodes that we've done, that's pretty fucking impressive, because most of our episodes have gone, like, for 2 hours.
Yeah, I think it's because we had that bit of a structure. We did that structure with kind of, like, the questions and stuff, too. I didn't mean to, like, overshare heaps, but yeah, that's kind of what this episode was about, right? Like, being in the hot seat.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is me. I'm getting to know my wife more in some little bits. Like, most of that I've known, but it's just it takes to kind of sit here and put it into perspective, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's like, it takes a bit for me to open up a bit and talk a bit, but I'm high as a kite on fucking sugar and bloody caffeine at the moment, so here we are.
And the reason I brought that point up is that that's why I started the pod, because in a way it is therapeutic, and some people will say, you need to talk to a professional and this and that. You're probably right. You
just need to do what
but at the same time, like, every time you've come on the pod, you've kind of opened up a little bit, and it's been... Yeah. I haven't poked you or prodded you or blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, hey babe, like, blah, blah, blah. And you get that spark. It hits you. Yeah. And it's just...
I guess it's just like with trauma and stuff, you like to bury it. And it's like, maybe if I talked about it, this might help someone else. Someone else might listen to this and be like, hey, fuck, I've been through that heavy shit too. Like,
and like, although I did do that episode with Tom, James Hellfire, what the fuck you want to call him, Andrew Acewags, about mental health, I still wouldn't mind doing one with you at some point. But when you're feeling up to it, because... Yeah.
I've got to be in the mood.
Again, that was just complete spur of the moment. Like, you're sitting there, you've had some caffeine, you're ready to answer questions. Yeah. And as you're answering the questions, it's like boom, 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 it hits you, as I said. But definitely something to look into, I feel, because... I've noticed that, I'm looking at you and I've got my computer in front of me and I can see the numbers and yada, yada, yada. We've got microphones and headsets, but at the crux of whether you want to call it an interview or whatever else, it is just literally a chat. It literally is just a conversation. Yeah. Like, definitely worth looking into, I feel. But I feel like that's probably a good starting point. Like, as I said, we're just about to knock over the hour point. So we'll reel it back in. We'll rein it back. We'll transition back into the wrestling, because we actually did watch some wrestling this week, and the show we watched, Warrior Wrestling 21, was actually a pretty fucking good show.
Yeah, it was a pretty good show, yeah.
Before we get to that, we'll go to the match of the week, and this is out of Mrs. Crossfire being a huge mark from Edge, or for Edge, as we mentioned in the very first question, like half an hour ago now. That's fine. But the match of the week this week is Edge versus Kurt Angle in a steel cage match from an episode of SmackDown on the 30th of May, 2022. So in 2 weeks' time, that's going to be the 20-year anniversary of that match. Holy fucking shit. We're old.
Did you mean 2002?
Yeah, 2002. Did I say 2022?
Yeah, you did.
My bad. 2002, and here we are in 2022, and we're about to hit the 20-year anniversary. My
I'm
bad.
calling you out.
I do that all the time. I always say 2022 instead of 2002. Oh, but this one had like all the drama. Kurt Angle escaped the cage, but the referee was knocked out. Hulk Hogan comes out and throws him back in there, which is great because Kurt Angle, as the heel, has a reason to complain. Nothing quite hurts like the truth, right? And eventually Edge goes on. He hits Kurt Angle with a spear from the top rope. He also hit Kurt Angle with his own ankle lock and an angle slam at some point during the match, which I always love when guys like steal each other's moves. It's pretty great. Kurt Angle hit a top rope angle slam in this one. It's probably the best top rope angle slam I've still seen to this day. And I'm not just talking about Kurt Angle either. Like you talk about earlier, all the indies and stuff. Like even all the indie-rific guys doing shit off the top rope. It's still the cleanest angle slam I've fucking ever seen. And he's just for a little bit of like comedy purposes, Kurt is actually wearing the wig with the wrestling headgear in this one because it's just after. It's like 2 weeks after Edge had originally shaved him bald. But the match of the week this week is Edge versus Kurt Angle from an episode of SmackDown. We said March, May 30th, 2002.
And that's around that time period of my earliest wrestling memory too. So that's why we kind of went with that one.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy to think. Like just a couple of weeks ago, we celebrated 20 years of Orton. Just this week, it was 20 years of Batista. In like 2 or 3 weeks, about a month or so, it's going to be 20 years of John Cena.
That's insane. It's crazy when you look at it like that.
Like just today, as I record this, a memory came up. It's been 16 years today since the Great Khali destroyed Rey Mysterio on SmackDown. And I tagged A-Swags in it, and I'm like, 16 years ago, we were sitting on his lounge room floor, losing our mind because the Great Khali destroyed our boy. Like, how the fuck has that been 16 years? Like we joke about being old. Like, I know that, 27 years isn't actually that old, but it's just, again, it's
pretty crazy.
Putting it into perspective, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, how? But, all right. With all that being said, let's just quickly run through the results of Warrior Wrestling 21. I wrote down a couple of talking points. If anything stands out to you, as always, Mrs. Crossfire, feel free to jump on in.
I'll fire in.
But match number 1, we had Sam Adonis defeating Aramis to retain the Warrior Wrestling Lucha Championship. Not going to lie, as a mark, I was kind of hoping that Aramis would win it back, but it is what it is. This was actually Aramis' rematch after losing it back at Warrior Wrestling 18. They were back in the same building where he lost it, so it does make sense that they waited, until this show to give him that rematch, but it was a pretty solid opener. Both men showed respect after the fact, though, which was a bit confusing because Adonis has kind of just recently slipped back into his heel role, and now he's, like, showing respect, which is great, but I'm like, is he, like, the big show of Warrior Wrestling? Like, even you were like, what the fuck's happening? Like, is he a face? Is he a heel? I didn't make any sense to me, but as I said, pretty solid opener. Match number 2, we had Carl Fredericks defeating Clark Connors. Pretty solid match, but it kind of started to drag a little bit in like the last minute or so. Yeah. And that's like with all due respect to both guys, but it just, I don't know, I feel like they're trying to fit too much into the match.
Yeah, I felt like maybe it should have been an opener.
I've literally written this down in my notes that I feel this one may have been better suited to be the opener. Like, I get opening it with established stars, but for what they did, I feel like maybe it should have been the opener. Because the crowd were solidly behind both guys, and they had the show of respect after the fact, and the crowd, were clapping and cheering, but I just kind of like felt a little iffy to me, but both guys did do a good job. It just kind of dragged, much like this podcast when I ramble on.
Doesn't help when I'm on here and I'm just like, let's talk in the fields. Yeah.
But they announced that the winner of the main event later on between Will Ospreay and Blake Christian would defend the Warrior Wrestling Championship against Davey Richards at the next show. Pretty exciting news. I think I could see Davey Richards versing either of those men. We had Frank the Clown holding a press conference. Now, I said this to you, like, I'm fucking...
Brilliant.
And I've put Frank the Clown over multiple times on the pod, but every time I see him, he just seems to get better and better. And just from where he came from, like, people like, oh, fans shouldn't get themselves over. Like, Brock Lesnar guy. I follow him on social media, and I'm sure he's a cool dude, but he goes too far out of the way to get himself over without actually, being in the business. And maybe I'm a dick for saying that, but Frank the Clown, he's gone out, he's trained, and, he is predominantly a manager, but he is, at the core, he is a wrestler, and he's done what he's always dreamed of, and he's just getting better and better and better. But Frank was digging into his inner Seth Rollins here with the suit that he had on. He had the mannerisms down pat as well, but also did a brilliant job of making it his own, I felt.
Yeah, really charismatic. I feel like the charisma's starting to come through.
Yeah, like he's really just coming into his own. Like he's come out of his shell. And it's really good to see, especially like within the Warrior Wrestling environment. Like he's the most over heel in the entire company, which, like, who would have thought, like, some random dude that was kind of known for sitting in the front row at wrestling events dressed as a clown would go on to, like, Warrior Wrestling is getting some pretty big fucking steam. Like, we're watching it in Australia. Like, they're getting steam worldwide. I know buddies that have also watched it. Like, I was talking to a mate just yesterday about how good the main event was between Ospreay and Blake Christian, and we'll get to that shortly. But it's fucking awesome to see Frank the Clown has come this far. He announces that he has a new client in Storm Grayson. Storm Grayson, one of those dudes that is super talented, but maybe just a little bit generic on the character side. And I feel like having Frank the Clown in his corner could be just what he needs to kind of get him over the finish line, so to speak. And then it's like revealed that that's not all. He has yet another new client, and it's Shazza McKenzie. Shazza McKenzie is Frank the Clown's new client. Of all the people that were going to be on this show, I did not see that coming.
I did not either. I was like, oh my god, this is cool.
I dug the fuck out of it. Shazza is one, and they pointed this out on commentary. She has done many, many tours of the USA. She has, of course, appeared on WWE and AEW. I said this to you while watching her match that was on the card later on, that if it hadn't been for COVID, I honestly feel like AEW would have signed her. Yeah, because they 100%. Made her look like a really big deal in the Battle Royal that she was in. But I feel like, despite all that, here specifically in, the Warrior Wrestling universe, dare I say, but specifically being paired with Frank here, I think is a good way to get her noticed.
Yeah, well, I popped. I don't know what she calls it, but like her little the little move that she does,
little pose that she does, and Frank's like doing it
kawaii like anime kind of pose, and then Frank's just doing it with her, and I popped so hard. I'm like, just that little touch of him doing it with her was like, yes, this is fucking brilliant, like
brilliant stuff. And like later on when Frank was doing like the little real I was kind of sad that we'll get on talk about that match in full, but I was kind of sad because Shazza was pulling the kicks maybe a little bit too much, but Frank's really like slow-mo, like almost Orange Cassidy-like kicks were just fucking great. Yeah. Absolutely great. But then we go to match number 3 after all this, press conference WWE style booking, I guess, but sports entertainment, whatever. I was entertained. Match number 3, we had Storm Grayson with Frank the Clown defeating Alex Zane due to interference from Frank. After the match, Alex Zane tries to go after Frank, but Alex Zane is then attacked by yet another new client from Frank the Clown, and it's Calvin fucking Tankman.
Yeah, Tankman.
What? How? Who? How do you not see a dude that size coming, but... He literally...
The camera angles were fucking
It was
fantastic
brilliant.
too.
Like, he just got laid out, and they're like, who's that? And all of a sudden, Calvin Tankman's standing over him, and we both popped like mofos, because, I showed you Calvin Tankman when we were watching bits and pieces of MLW, and unfortunately, because of life and how much wrestling there is out there, we've fallen out of MLW again, but huge fans of Calvin Tankman, and again, he's a big dude, so having him be almost like an enforcer in a heel way with a guy like Frank the Clown doing the talking.
Yes.
It cannot do any wrong. Like, it's only going to benefit everyone involved.
Big guy, mouthpiece, that's what you want.
Hi, James Hellfire, how are you?
How you doing?
Just put myself over.
How you doing?
How you doing? Match number 4. Shane Swerve Strickland defeated the loose ledge Adam Brooks. Pretty fucking good match, but I might be biased. I'm a huge mark for both. Brooksy's my dude. Swerve's my dude. But fantastic fucking match. That's all I can say. It was a great match, top to bottom. Match number 5. This was probably my favourite match of the night up to this point. And it was double Dante. We had Dante Martin and Dante Leone, because unfortunately, Darius Martin, who'd literally just come back from, I think it was an ACL? Was it his knee that he injured?
I think it was his ACL.
Yeah, well, he'd just come back from an ACL injury. He's had a fairly serious car crash, and now he's going to be out for another 6 to 9 months due to issues that he's having with, I believe, his neck. His neck area. So we're wishing him the best, but double Dante dug the absolute fuck out of it. Like, you were popping just because, we're big on the psychology stuff, but the flippy shit is good when it's good, sort of thing.
I love my flippy
and just
shit.
The stuff that Dante Leone does, like the innovation that he does, is great. And then just the teamwork between the two Dantes, and then their opponents was Papa and Kidge Cage, Brian Cage and Casey Navarro. Just, as I said, all the flips and tricks, maybe a little too choreographed at points, but I dug it.
I did
Absolutely
too, yeah.
dug it.
Casey Navarro's getting up there for me.
He's such a fucking star, and like I've tooted his horn for how many fucking, probably like a year, 2 years now.
And I'm finally starting to get on that bandwagon.
You're finally getting to see his talent, and
I
then
can see it, yeah.
The behind the scenes stuff that he did. I showed you
that touched me too.
The
that was
autism
fantastic.
awareness, because they were talking about how he's doing stuff for autism awareness, and I showed you the YouTube video where he gave that autistic fan who had supported him since day one,
all the way through,
the tour of like the MLW arena, and he's meeting people, and you even popped because he met Enzo. And
he met Enzo, and I'm like,
people can say what they want
gosh.
about Enzo's ring ability.
Yeah.
He's a fucking legend. Like, he's an absolute dude. But yeah, just Casey Navarro was already really up there for me just because of his talent and everything else, and seeing like the kind of person that he is behind the scenes. It's refreshing to see, and I hope that he stays the course, because as I've said multiple times, if he keeps his head on his shoulders, he keeps himself injury free, I could see him again, New Japan, AEW, WWE, doesn't matter. In this day and age, you could realistically make money anywhere, right? But I just huge props and a big pop for Casey Navarro. After the match, Brian Cage actually shoved Casey Navarro over. He was a little bit upset that his adopted son, was pinned here by Dante Leone, which little interesting bit there. But match number 6, Athena, you called it, defeats Sky Blue and Shazza McKenzie in a triple threat match to become the new Warrior Wrestling Women's Champion. Former champion Thunder Rosa was on commentary here, as she was there to relinquish the championship due to her commitments going forward with AEW as the current AEW Women's Champion. This is where I kind of, because being old school, I'm like, she could have just dropped the title and then announced that, hey, she wouldn't be back for a while, but at the same time, I get it. She's the AEW Women's Champion, so maybe from AEW's standpoint, they don't want their champion being pinned, but I'm like, at the end of the day, it's still technically a different company. Like, does it really matter? But that's just me being really nitpicky, but pretty good match here. A little bit sloppy in parts, a few slip-ups, mainly on Sky Blue's end, but it's not a bad thing. She's still very green, and you and I discussed this, like, she's had matches in the past. Like, she just had a triple threat with Thunder Rosa and Athena at the event before this, and again, there was a couple of slip-ups, but not as bad, but you think, she's in there with Athena, she's in there with Shazza McKenzie, she's followed both of their careers.
Yep.
She's going to be nervous. Like, there's no matter how talented you are, the nerves, they have to shine through at some point. And the fact that she fought through the nerves to put on the performance that she did, I was very proud of her as a fan. Like, you said this, and this is where we were talking about, I mentioned Billy Starks earlier on in the episode. Yeah. This is where you and I started talking about Billy Starks, is that Sky Blue is very much in that same vein, where in a couple of years' time, I can see her being a star.
Yeah, yeah, should be more seasoned as such. As well as, like, I think her nerves also run from the fact that, like, how close the crowd was more than usual. Like, that was crazy. Like, they were right
Yeah,
there.
that venue's fucking beautiful, but like you're in the ring, there's no guardrails. Here's the chair. Like, here's the front row. Like, but yeah, again, I think that I think she's gonna be a big star, and I'm glad that Athena got the win here because obviously Shazza, she's gonna come back over here, I'm assuming, and then Sky Blue was the only other choice. I don't think that she's quite ready just yet to be the Warrior Women's Champion, but I feel like when she's ready, she's going to be ready, and it's going to be worth the wait, I feel.
And for me, what I was thinking, the reason I predicted Athena winning was mainly because, too, I was like, I feel like having a blank. Shazza.
Yes.
My brain's like having blanks at the moment. With Shazza, I feel like they're going to build her up a bit more. That's why they've got her with Frank, and they're going to build her up a bit more. I feel like I could see her as a champion eventually. That builds there, I think, psychology.
With the amount of talent that Warrior Wrestling brings in, and they have they're doing shows almost monthly at this point. You can have Shazza miss, 2 or 3 shows, and even if she become the champion, you could still do that because you've still got the Warrior Championship, still got the Lucha Championship, you've still got all the special attractions of, we're bringing in this guy or this girl. So even if one of the champions isn't there, which has happened before, it's not as big of a deal as if it was like, say, an AEW or a WWE and their champion's not there.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I feel Athena definitely the right choice, but Sky Blue, she has the whole world at her fingertips.
Yeah.
She really does. She really does.
She's fantastic.
Match number 7 / the main event. This is where I was like, give me all the flippy shit. Like,
all the flippy doos.
We had Will Ospreay defeating Blake Christian to retain the Warrior Wrestling Championship. This match on paper, you look at the match on paper. Will Ospreay versus Blake Christian. Straight up the gate, to an extent, what you're expecting. We got all of that and 10 times more.
Yeah, for sure.
It was just, there was a few times there where I unfortunately, again, as I said, it happened about 2 weeks ago. It was the same day as Impact's Rebellion, which I reviewed, 2 episodes ago. I reviewed that. So, unfortunately, though, I was lucky. I didn't see any of the spoilers somehow, even though it had been 2 weeks, except for this one, which kind of made me mad because I'm like, it's the big one. It was the match I was most excited for, but just fucking wow. Pretty solid, I'm repeating myself, but I'm just in awe of this. Like, the story they told, both men coming in with chips on their shoulders. You had Blake Christian, who was pinned by Will Ospreay in the triple threat match that also included Trey Miguel, but his whole thing was, no, you only pinned me because Trey was here and blah, blah, blah. And from a kayfabe aspect, you could actually argue that.
You could argue that.
And then Ospreay comes in where there was a bit of miscommunication in New Japan where the finish was kind of botched. And I don't know if it actually was botched or if they've just worked us that good. But basically, he had a match against Jon Moxley. He kicked out of Moxley's finisher. Moxley puts him in the choke and he tapped out. The referee, despite Ospreay getting his shoulder up just before the 3, and you could argue, I've actually gone back and even I've put it in slow motion, and it's, if it was a real sport, it's referee's discretion. Like, I don't know if he did get his shoulder up, but in Ospreay's mind, he got his shoulder up before the 3.
Yep.
So even though he still tapped out, he was screwed because the match was ended before the choke was actually on, sort of thing. So he's pissed off. He's like, fuck this, I'm going to take it out on the first guy that I'm in the ring with. And unfortunately for Blake Christian, in a kayfabe sense, it just happened to be him. So just great story there. Both men really motivated. And as I said, I was just losing my mind the whole time. Will Ospreay has been known to be a little bit controversial at times. He's a little bit outspoken. Arguably has a bit of an attitude problem. But when you see Will Ospreay's name on a card, doesn't matter what match, what promotion, you're getting a performance.
Yeah.
100%, sure. You're getting a dare I say, a 5-star performance. I don't dig into Meltzer star ratings, but if you look at Will Ospreay, you're going to get at least a 4-star match, right? For those kind of, if you want to look at it in those kind of terms.
It's comparing apples to oranges, but it's like Hulk Hogan. I love the wrestler, but the person is trash. Terry's trash, you know? That's how I look at it.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that have had some not so nice things to say about Will Ospreay, but at the end of the day, I've never met him personally. He's never done anything super bad that I'm aware of.
We don't actually,
but like, you know, he's got an attitude problem, and you know what? Like, I don't agree with it, but he's a fantastic wrestler, fantastic performer. You look at where he was a few years ago, where him and Ricochet are doing flips and tricks, and the internet's fucking yelling at him because they've killed the business, to where he's evolved now as a performer. It's that there is apples and oranges. It is two completely separate
even when you see, like, he has honed it in a lot because he's a heel now. He's honed in a lot of his
and he's bulked up a little bit as it is.
Yeah,
he had that. I believe it was his neck injury that he had, and it was like, fuck, like, you know, is he going to be able to wrestle? Is he going to change his style? He didn't really change his style because he'd already changed it a little bit just before the injury. I think it was his neck. It might have been his shoulder, but he got a little bit of an injury.
Shoulder from memory, but yeah.
It was that general area, anyway, but yeah, like, he's just really, really good performance here. Like, he's just solid show top to bottom.
Yep.
The production value for this one, though, like we both pointed it out, hands down the best production they've had any of their shows. Up to this point, Warrior Wrestling 18, which again was in the same building, was their best. But the spotlight they had like a weird, like, greenish tints to it. Yeah. Whereas here, I don't know if the building's been renovated or if they've just got, you know, different lights or what. But they had the kind of like where we wrestle in Canberra in the Belconnen Community Centre. Cheap plug. They've got the LEDs above the ring.
Yeah.
Beautiful, because you've got like that theatre, and that's what this is here. It's almost like a theatre as well, but the seats go 3/4 of the way around the ring, and they're right there. Yeah. You've got the spotlight. It's just, it looks amazing. Like, this is, if there was a perfect wrestling venue, like Stone Cold Steve Austin likes to preach about, like, you know, how he misses the old, you know, smoke-filled rooms and stuff like that. And they're pretty great. Like, you know, the 2300 Arena, famously the ECW Arena, that's a great venue. But just stuff like this from an aesthetic standpoint, like the ring's there, the fans are right there, the spotlight's on, 100%. If I had to wrestle in any venue, I'd wrestle in a venue like that every fucking day for the rest of my life. Like, it just the little things. Like, I'm just ranting, but yeah, the venue looked amazing. The production quality was amazing. They've definitely, you know, because they have raised the price slightly of their shows, and that does, you know, factor in that they've brought in guys like Ospreay and other kind of performers like that. So maybe they need to up the price to afford to pay them. But their production,
even the production
is getting so much better. Yeah. Like, I don't think there was any sound dips or anything.
No, I think it was pretty good. And yeah, a lot of the time you have the sound dips. I did really enjoy the stadium shows. It was just mainly like the quality was a bit shit.
At the very start of the show,
you couldn't really.
The music was a bit too loud.
Yeah.
And you couldn't hear the commentators. And then the commentators went really loud, and then it was fine. But that was before any of the matches or anything had started. It was just literally that introducing us to the show. So essentially that was still, you know, sound check to an extent, right? But just fantastic show. The stage is set. Warrior Wrestling 22. Will Ospreay versus Davey Richards. Ospreay said in his promo after the fact, quote, "I'm going to kick your fucking head in." And usually, like, you know me, like, I don't like when guys swear for the sake of swearing, but the conviction that he said this in with the way his character is at the moment, like the whole promo that Will Ospreay cut about how, you know, he basically killed the old him. Again, apples and oranges. Fantastic promo. Really put over Blake Christian as well, even in defeat. And then Casey Navarro tries to cash in his coin of chance because despite the fact that he's on a losing streak, he did win that coin of chance. It's essentially a Money in the Bank contract, you know, for intents purposes where you can cash in on any champion. I believe they said as a joke at one point, they're like, he could cash in on the women's champion if he wanted to. And I'm like,
that'd be cool.
I hope he does. Like, why the fuck not, right? But Cage comes out, cuts off Casey and announces that no, before you get to Will Ospreay or Blake Christian or whoever the Warrior Wrestling Champion will be in any time in the future, your next match is against me. So straight off the bat, you've got 2 matches announced for Warrior Wrestling 22, and I'm keen as fuck for both of them. You got Will Ospreay, Davey Richards in the main event, and then we've got Papa Cage versus Kid Cage. That's going to be all the flips and tricks and everything else, but it's going to be fucking awesome. They're both going to be awesome.
I'm keen for it.
Pretty keen.
Yeah.
We're doing pretty good. We're just under an hour and a half for this one. About an hour and 20 and change, so I'm happy with that. Do you have anything else you'd like to add about the show, or just what we talked about earlier with the hot seat, or anything you want to plug maybe? I don't know. Have you got anything coming up, Mrs. Crossfire?
Nope, not really.
In 6 days' time, I'm going to be worried sick while my partner has operation.
Yeah. Yep. Nothing to really plug.
You don't want to sit here and ramble on about more music and true crime and
I could for days, and people would be like, "Oh, woman, just shut up."
Talk about how we met and fell in love and
had babies? Nah, not yet.
Not yet. I do want to do that at some point though, because a lot of people have said that, like, God damn, a lot of people that, like, our close friends that we've told our story, like, it's one of those things where it literally almost is. I was going to say storybook ending, but it hasn't ended yet, and I'm hoping it doesn't for like another 70, 80 years, and I die of old age.
Replacing me for the boo or what? Gosh.
Fucking hell. But, like, I do want to do that at some point where we kind of sit down and we discuss, from everything. Because I remember I did, like, a quick rundown of our wedding day, and everyone actually tuned into that episode because they're like, oh, let's hear about the wedding.
Yeah.
So maybe we should talk about our love story, about how swipe right led to this.
this lounge room podcast.
Recording on my lounge room floor. A completely professional setup.
One day we'll have that set up.
With that being said, as I said, we're just under an hour and a half. I feel that's pretty good. Like, we covered a fair amount of stuff in that. I'm happy with that.
I was worried I was going to ramble on too much.
You don't want me to, like, edit out any stuff, like, that you got when you're oversharing, or?
Nah.
Nah, we're good.
Leave it in. She's all good.
You guys have no choice now. You got to listen to it. But no, thank you guys for listening. As I said, this is episode 50. I was hoping to get to episode 52. Obviously, I've still got a couple of days before I leave, so if I do manage to squeeze in episode 51, which will be next week's episode while I'm recovering, just completely ignore that. But as of now, as I'm recording this for the foreseeable future, I don't know when the next episode will be. I'm going in for my cornea transplant in 6 days' time as I record this, as I said. Could be cancelled yet. I fucking hope not, because I've booked the train, I've booked the hotel. But we're getting there. We're one step closer to me being able to actually see the best I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, the good news is, at this point in time, I was going to say knock on wood, but the table in front of me is like, yeah, I'll knock on your table there. Knock on wood, my right eye is still pristine. Like, I had the operation in that one when I was 16, and they've said it's still one of the cleanest surgical sites for a cornea transplant that they've literally ever seen, which is crazy, because they thought that by the time I was 30 it would need to be done again, and I'm 28 at the end of this year, and it's, still pretty much 100% intact, basically. So, crossing my fingers that stays the same. My eyesight's not going to get any worse, at least within the one that they're trying to fix now. Like, it's, like, short of going completely black, and it wouldn't really matter if it did, because I can't see out of it anyway.
Yeah.
So, hopefully, as I said, hopefully I can get episode 51 out sooner than later, but if not, thank you guys for listening to this far. This isn't the end of the podcast, it's just to be continued as of this point. As I said, if I do manage to squeeze in episode 51, just ignore this rant here, but that will bring us to an end. We're going to take it home. Thank you. 50 episodes, Mrs. Crossfire.
Yeah, wow.
50 episodes. Like, how have I...
And I got reel and roll with y'all.
My ADHD ass, but I guess in a way that kind of works with my ADHD, because I'm, like, hyper-focused.
I think it's a mixture of both. That's why our episodes come out so good, because we're both, like, got ADHD, so it's like, talk for days.
But yeah, as I said, if you see another episode pop up, like, literally next week, then... hooray! I managed to squeeze one in before I left, but...
Current subject to change.
Just thank you guys for listening. 50 episodes. Leave a comment below. Like the Facebook page. Buy a shirt. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out Clash in the Capitol on June 4th. The poster has just been revealed. Spoiler alert, I, along with the guidance of Mrs. Crossfire, made the poster for that, so let me know how you think about that. Be nice, please. No, I was pretty happy with how that came out. That actually was revealed today as I record this.
Yeah.
But yeah, just thank you guys again. I'm sounding like a crack record, but the song of the week was Who I Am by Citizen Soldier. The match of the week, I'll get it right, third time's the charm, was Edge versus Kurt Angle in a steel cage match, May 30th, 2002, on an episode of SmackDown.
Yeah,
Booyah!
boom!
Fucking nailed it.
Nailed
I am the
it.
essential John L. Crossfire. That's a great show. We need to finish watching that. I am the essential John L. Crossfire. With me in the hot seat was Mrs. Crossfire. And you guys, as always, were just caught
In conversation.
Boom.